Hello, it's EasyMotion Garage again, second installment, or as it will now be known, EasyMotion presents Fun with Electric Bikes, hosted by Big John. And that's me, Big John. Okay, here we have your standard side-mounted Evo display. And I'm going to start by turning it on, simply pressing and holding the power button. We'll see some numbers arrive. It's going to cycle through things. Battery icon will flash. Once it stops flashing, there we go. We are now on. And the first button I'll cover is this bottom one down here with a little headlight icon on it. I'm going to press and hold that, and that's going to turn the light on, hopefully make the screen a little easier for us to see. And there we go. And then turn it off. Just do the same. Hold it down, goes away. Press it again. Comes back on. If you're using our EasyMotion wiring kit for lights, you could turn your head and tail lights on with the same button here on the display. So, moving forward, you can see we got miles per hour here. Your assist levels, right now we're in sport mode, third highest, and the remainder of the battery charge left, 68% on this one. Over here in the upper right, you'll see, we'll start with the totals. So it's going to be total mileage. And then to cycle through, we simply click the button for power. And that's going to take us over to total time, listed there in hours, 41 hours. Click it again. That'll show us our total average speed. These totals cannot be reset. Think of them as the odometer in your car. But then if we click again, you'll see it changes over to trip. Trip can be reset, and I'll show you that at the end of this. But here's your trip mileage. Click again. Trip time. And your trip average speed. Okay, so now to reset our trip values, we make sure we go over to trip. There we go. Then I'm going to press and hold the power button and the minus button. That should reset our values for us here. Hold them down, and there you go. You can see everything set back to 0. If I keep clicking the power button, get through all the trip icons, you're going to see your miles to go. That's a calculation done by the display based on current speed, power consumption, and battery charge. That gives you a rough idea of how far you could go if you maintain the current condition. It'll change drastically if you're going uphill, pedaling really using a lot of assist. It's going to tell you of a short distance, but then once you get to the top of that hill and you start going downhill, it'll recalculate, and then suddenly your miles to go is going to increase because you're not using a lot of power. So there's that one. So that was basically all the functions. You also use the display to set the bike up, wheel size and whatnot. To do that, you're going to go to your top and bottom button, the plus and minus, press and hold. You'll see a wheel size here, 29 inches. You can use the minus button to decrease wheel size. If you're in 27.5, you can go there. This bike's 29 though, so I'm going to go back to 29. There we go, wheel size is set. I click the power button again, goes over to units. Right now I'm in miles. I could click the minus button. There we go, not the top button, but the minus button to go to kilometers if I were so inclined. But I'm in the States right now, so I'm going to go up to miles. And the next time I click the power button, it takes me over to the snow option. Now this is pertinent for our all-wheel drive models. If you have a rear hub motor only, go ahead and just leave this in the off position. If you do have all-wheel drive version, you can use the plus and minus buttons to choose which motor you use. So going up one is rear only. Another one is front only. Snow Eco mode. This is an interesting mode. This uses both motors in combination to net you the best miles per charge. Essentially what it'll do is it'll use the bigger rear motor to get you up to speed. Once you hit a cruising speed, the front motor takes over using less energy, and back and forth and so on. But then, of course, the most fun one is going to be your all, and that's both motors all the time, full blast. I don't have this on this bike though, so I'm going to go all the way back down to off using the minus button. Clicked it again. This is going to take you to amps. You'll find this number on the belly of your battery. Just go ahead and enter that number here. This is used for that miles to go calculation. That's all this does. So even if you set the wrong number here, it's not going to affect the performance of the bike in any way. And next click should take us back to wheel size. There it is. I'm all set up and ready to go. So to get back to the home screen, as I call it, and just simply press and hold the power button. And there you go. Okay, here you can see I've mounted the center display onto the bike. I'll show you the functions on the newer center display. Very much the same as the original side mount display. Simply press and hold the power button. You'll see the computer cycle through everything. Battery icon stops flashing when we're ready to go. There we are. Just as before, you have your battery charge up here. We're at 68%. Miles an hour, so your speed is here. Levels of assist. And then your trip information down here. Right now, just as before, you have your total miles. Use the power button to click through total time. This can be your total average speed. Click again, it's going to take you to trip. Now remember, the trip can be reset simply by pressing and holding the power and minus button at the same time. This one's set at 0, so no point in zeroing it out. I'll continue through again with the power button once more. It's going to take us over to trip, time, and then of course average mile an hour for the trip. Click it one more time, and as before, we'll have our miles to go, just as the side display is. This one calculates in much the same way. So going uphill, you're using a lot of juice, miles to go will be low. If you start going downhill again, it recalculates about every 5 to 10 seconds. It'll give you a longer distance. So it's just kind of a miles to go under the current conditions type of thing. So that's all the functions of the center display. Now to go to the setup, just as before, I'm going to press and hold the plus and minus buttons over here. There we go. We've got our wheel size here. And just like before, I could use the minus button to decrease it, use the plus size to increase it. You'll notice this new 4-digit number down here. That's just your wheel size in metric. Again, most people would probably just stick with the inches, if you will. Go to 29. Click the power button once. Take me to the next setting. Again, I can go down to kilometers if I were so inclined. Plus button, I'll take it back up to miles per hour, or our standard system. Snow, here again, I'm going to leave it off because I do not have all-wheel drive, but if I did, I could select rear, front, eco, and then all. Now, I don't know if it shows up, but you can see here it's got a cool little bike icon. You can see how the wheels flash back and forth. Kind of indicates on how they're used and which one's activated. Nice new little graphic. Press the power button again. Here we are. We're at our amps rating for the battery. Again, that is on the belly of the battery. My battery on this bike, I'm going to leave it at 10.5 from now. That's used in calculating your miles to go, so important to set it for that information. Click again. You're going to see a new value, new information, 17 degrees Celsius. That's the current temperature of the battery, so that'll let you know if the bike stops. You can look at this information and say, oh, well, it's starting to overheat. Typically, overheating is an issue. Getting too cold isn't an issue. If it's too cold for the battery, it's definitely too cold to ride outside. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it's definitely below 0 degrees where things get ugly for the battery and hence ugly for people. Click it again. 1.2. This is the value for the TMM sensor or the torque sensor. This is a very useful setting. Typically, you're going to want that number to be between 0.8 and 1.2 is optimum. You can't have it anywhere from 0.05 to 1.5. So it's just another diagnostic tool. Click it one more time. This is going to be the state of health. That's what this little SOH stands for down here. So I've already been using this battery for a while. It was a 10.5, already down to 9.6 in the state of health of this battery. But it's just a good indicator, help your shop or yourself kind of diagnose if you're noticing a lesser distance per charge on the battery. Once this number gets down to about 60%, that's when you've, of whatever your original value is, that's when you've reached kind of the useful life of the battery. So click the power button one more time, takes us to the last new parameter. That's 3.7, that's going to be the software version for the display itself. Just give you information on which software it's using. And click it one more time, I'm going to be back to our wheel size. So I'm just going to hold down the power button now that we've had set all our values. It should take us back to the home screen. There we are. And there you go. That's the operation of both the original side mount display and the new center mount display on EasyMotion bikes. One additional feature I wanted to show you on the center mount display here is our new USB plug. You use the flat blade screwdriver here to plug up or pry up the cover there. This is pretty snug, which is a good thing. Keeps the elements out. But there you can see your standard USB port right there, and you charge your cell phone, what have you. Close that back down, and that's just another little additional feature of the center mount display.